Good evening, Dumelang Reperile, and welcome to the first broadcast of the ANC election news. Kalina ke Penny Wagalibiani. As we get ready to cast our vote on November 1st, I will unpack the ANC election manifesto with my guest tonight, Ronald Lamola, who is the member of the NEC and the current Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Aye?
Aye, Minjani.
Now, under the theme Building Better Communities Together, the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the local government elections take place amid some of the most serious challenges that we have faced since our first democratic elections in 1994. However, our key task is to create jobs and reduce poverty as a matter of agency. Minister Lamola, for the general public of South Africans and for those who are ANC voters, they're saying we've had this before. What is it that this manifesto is speaking to differently this time?
It is the fact that the crafting of the manifesto and the selection of candidates has directly involved the community, which obviously takes lessons for the past 25 years. That shows that in that 25 years, there are things that we've been able to deliver. We've been successful in the building of municipalities that are community-based, civic involvement, and also that they've integrated electricity, water, and the various service delivery objectives of municipalities for the benefit of everyone, which we came from a period where these kind of services were reserved for the white minority. But the ANC said this should be given to everyone, irrespective of color, creed, or political affiliation, black, white, Indian, and everyone. So obviously it has also created challenges because of the bulk infrastructure that we had now to put. It means that we are now servicing the majority of the population. It will definitely present challenges which we are now facing as the ANC government. When you expand that kind of service of electricity, water, the challenges are immense. And I think that is what we are now dealing with. And that makes us the best organization to lead this country because we know what is a challenge and what can be resolved.
So for a voter who's saying 25 years down the line, issues of basic service delivery are still at the center of the challenges that you're talking to. Why should I be going back to the polls, to vote for the ANC? According to the manifesto and your understanding, what are the key issues that this manifesto is speaking to for these local government elections?
It's because the ANC has got 25 years of experience. In that 25 years, we know what works and what cannot work. We are not like any other organization that is still going to look as to what and how it's going to work. We know when we get into the office, we know from the lessons of the past 25 years that this is what we need to do to ensure that there's water in the communities, there's electricity, and also there's the services of basic service delivery like refuse removals, which has also become a challenge. So we are better placed because of our experience. The others, they will still be trying. It has shown in Tshwane, in Johannesburg, and in the Nelson Mandela Metro that the trial and error does not work. That has happened between the DA and the AFF. Their marriage could not be able to deliver because they do not have the experience that the ANC has.
So when someone says water, sanitation, electricity, as you correctly say, some communities have access to that versus what the situation was like 25 years ago. But there is piping in communities, but when I open the tap, for example, me and you from Mpumalanga and Bushbuckridge, when we open the tap, there's no water coming in there. The metric system, it might be in some communities, but when I press on the light, there is no power, coming from the wall. So when you talk of service delivery on the ground in those municipalities, what seems to be the problem based on the experience that the ANC has? Why hasn't those issues been resolved?
Yeah, obviously the reality is that the majority of the population of South Africa does have access to clean water. We have now moved to about 85% of the provision to the whole country. That includes electricity. But there will be pockets of challenges, as we have said, like in Bushbuckridge is true. There is challenge of water, which has been there now for some few years, and including in Guyana and some parts of the Eastern Cape and certain parts of KwaZulu-Natal. But those challenges have been identified, and the Department of Water and Sanitation is working on resolving those challenges. In Guyana, the biggest challenge has been also the ballooning of the amounts that were supposed to be paid in that water provisioning. But we're now sitting with the reports that states what has been ballooned, how much, and who was responsible. So that is an indication of an organization that wants to be accountable in terms of the challenges that we have encountered and what must be resolved.
All right, in the age of accountability, if there are reports, the big question always, there are reports, there are investigations, but why are some of those recommendations not implemented? How is this manifesto addressing that those issues are being tackled hands-on?
Yeah, the first thing is that obviously even transparency itself is a product of ANC governance. There was no transparency 25 years ago. It is us who brought these processes of AG reporting to the nation that there is a challenge in this area, this amount is missing. And the reports are there, as you have said, but investigations also takes long. It's a complex process. In a constitutional democracy, you cannot just wake up and say this person must be charged, this must happen. It's a process that does happen, but as the reports come about, the reports are implemented, and it has happened. It's all there for South Africans to see. It has been implemented where there is recommendations, the NPA, the Hawks, and everyone, including people have to step aside, even within the ANC itself. So there's a clear line that has been drawn in the sand, and there are decisions that are being taken and also that are being implemented.
So, Loko Vanuwaku, the investigations are happening, the Hawks, we're seeing a few people here and there and step aside, but it doesn't look like, as the party, the ANC is willing to change the perception that the public has. Going forward for this local government elections, because issues of service delivery are a problem, but the biggest challenge being the very employees who are councillors, of the ANC in those municipalities, who are an impediment to service delivery, who are involved in corruption. And it also seems like it takes forever for actually them to be removed there, and therefore that holds back the very service that the communities want. What do you say to that? What does the manifesto say to that?
Yeah, so that better explains it, that you have to follow due process in a constitutional democracy, and that is what the ANC has brought to this country. So due process might take some time, but the reality is that people do face consequences. And there is a litany of examples across the country where due process has been followed and people have been held accountable. And even in the ANC itself, processes of step aside have happened. People have been removed as mayors. Some of them have been charged. Some of them are undergoing court processes. Some have been found guilty. So it's a process that has to be given a chance and be given a life of its own for accountability to happen. And we do believe that with those kind of actions, the perceptions will change and society will begin to regain that trust because of the actions that are being taken.
Now, someone who's an ANC voter and saying, we're going to these elections under COVID-19 challenges, my basic concern is food increased prices, I don't have access to a job, and I'm hearing another manifesto that speaks about a better life, but I'm currently not enjoying or seeing what that means.
Yeah, it could have been worse if there was no action that the ANC took, including the ANC government. You'll remember when COVID-19 started, one of the things that we did, except to put processes to deal with issues of corruption, was to put the Competition Commission and the Consumer Commission to deal with issues of price fixing, price manipulation, and there have been investigations where various retailers have been found guilty by the Competition Commission for price fixing, including the Consumer Commission having also had to clamp down some of these price manipulators. So the prices could have been worse than what they are. So we have been able to discipline and regulate the market so that it does not go out of hand. It is still within the limits of market reasonability in terms of some of the prices. But indeed, because of the market and the inflation, some of the prices are indeed high. But it could have been worse if there was no government intervention.
All right. So how does the manifesto, for example, speak to someone who says, that's what has been done, but I'm trying to get into the market as a farmer, or some speaks to how that is actually changing because, for the last 25 years, dealing with the same people in the same space, in the same areas of business, whereas the feeling is there's not enough opportunity for upcoming, especially black businesses.
Yeah, as you will recall, there was also a presidential jobs stimulus package that aimed at dealing with to cushion the economy in relation to the most affected sectors of the economy. That includes the farmers, it includes small businesses, which have been given some kind of relief, including the credit guarantee scheme, which we also acknowledge that it did not really go well. But there is now a process aimed at small businesses to cushion them, but also to help them to find resources that will grant or enable them to play a role in the economy. And also, there has also been about 700,000 hectares of land that government has distributed in this period to give people for farming, for various economic initiatives, and for other activities that relate to religious activities. About 700,000 hectares. And the ANC has been very clear in terms of when we give land, that we give you a title deed for you to be able to raise funds, or for you to be able to have a security of tenure where you stay. And hence we speak about mixed ownership of land, where the state owns its own land and where individuals own lands for their own economic activity, and also where anyone in the private sector could use the land for whatever economic purpose. Hence, we always say we are the most experienced in that regard, because we are not theorizing about the actual practicality of providing land. The issue that you can give people short-term lease or whatever lease for them to do farming. Farming is a long-term objective, or even a house. You need to be given a title deed. You can't give you a lease for your house and then we expect that you are going to do something meaningful with that.
Now, young people are saying that's all good and well, access to education, jobs, training opportunities, 25 years, you've got the experience. You've spoken about how and young people are saying we have the energy now, but we don't have access to any of these things. How do you address issues of like connectivity, data access, and making sure that really the numbers of unemployment when it comes to young people, they say we don't want to hear the same hook or rap line of saying, a better life for all, but it's not for us young people, it's for a certain few.
Yeah, hence when the COVID-19 started, one of the first things that we did was to release spectrum for the various service providers to provide access to students for free internet at universities or wherever they might be, for them to access the content to study. And as we speak now, the Department of Telecommunications is in the process of releasing spectrum and to help us to migrate towards analog, which has been a project of the past 10 or more years. But we are finally in a position where we are saying we have brought all the industry. There's some kind of agreement that this needs to happen. And the release of spectrum will boost a lot in the economy, but will also have reduce the amount in terms of data prices. But also the Competition Commission has also played its role for the reduction of data of Vodacom, MTN, and the Cell C. So there is some tangible action that is moving towards a reduction of data that will enable people access to the data that they will need for whatever economic activity. So despite the regulatory intervention, there is also concrete action that government is doing in terms of the release of spectrum, which will definitely help to reduce, but also in terms of access for data.
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges as well that we're facing is issues of, community safety, gender-based violence, the level of violence just in our country, and the crime stats really speaks to that. And we've seen during COVID-19 how the numbers have gone up. I mean, even the level of violence that we've seen when you wake up and you read of like someone was shot 15 times in the streets of a township, or someone was hacked in a village. The question is, what's happening at local police stations versus, how perpetrators are sentenced equal to the crime that they've committed. There's also an outcry to that when it comes to general safety, in the country. Yes, we want to thrive. We want to take these opportunities, but people are feeling unsafe.
Yeah, that will have also to be dealt with as in terms of context. Firstly, we have to deal with the issue of the economy, that the economy must be able to grow, to create enough jobs that are needed to deal with the challenges of unemployment. Secondly, is a social problem. And hence you will see from the manifesto that we also speak about the revival of sports infrastructure, arts infrastructure, and entertainment infrastructure by the municipalities across the country, which I think will also play a big role, or a huge role, to take young people out of the streets to play sports, to be involved in arts and drama, and various entertainment activities. But if all those obviously have failed, the criminal justice system must come into the space where the police comes in, and the NPA, and obviously the Justice Department, in terms of ensuring that whoever is a perpetrator of crime, it's held accountable for his or her actions. And hence, we can state that there's about 74% conviction rate in terms of gender-based violence, rape, and the other heinous crimes that this country see. You will, every day, as we're sitting here, there's a court somewhere convicting someone for a life sentence for these kind of crimes. And hence, we always say that to the NPA, they may need to communicate these things. And hence, you will see, in terms of the headlines, almost every day, there's now a headline, this person has been convicted to life, this one has been convicted to that and that. But what we are saying as the ANC is that the first process is in society, in the community, in terms of preventing crime from happening.
So what do you say to a young person who says, I definitely feel like my needs are not being met, or a woman who say, I'm not voting for you because of the level of gender-based violence, and I'm not seeing the results of what you just said right now?
Also, you will have to make your vote count. Your vote must be your voice. It must be the one that speaks to the issues that you have as a South African. And we as the ANC have got programs in place that deals with the matters of crime, including gender-based violence. As we speak now, we are in the final stages of putting about 3 legislations, the Criminal Law Amendment Bill, the Domestic Violence Amendment Bill, that are speaking to exactly the same issues that you are talking about. And this bill came as a result of the Presidential Gender-Based Violence Summit, where all NGOs and all South Africans came together. They said, this is what we think should be a solution. And which government will not listen to all South Africans and put it in place? And we've been able to do it responding to what people have said. So it is clear that this is a people-centered government that listens and responds to the needs of the South African society. Hence, we had to put these 3 pieces of legislation. They are one of the fastest laws to be put through Parliament since the dawn of democracy.
The dissatisfaction around corruption in local government and municipalities that goes as low as local councillors, how does this manifesto speaks to that differently from the previous time? What is going to be different going into this local government elections?
Yeah, this manifesto is very clear and emphatic about issues of ethical leadership. Hence, you will also see that it has gone through what we call now the Electoral Commission. It did not go through the usual processes like in the past, which was headed by the former President Kgalema Motlanthe, who was the Secretary General. So this process is aimed to produce ethical leaders that will be accountable to society. And obviously, it also speaks about monitoring mechanisms where there is failure of the system, so that the monitoring mechanism does not wait for a crisis to emerge, or a municipality collapsing like it has happened in Kwakwa and the Maluti Apafo. But the system will enable us to, with early warnings, to see and intervene at an early stage. And when there's a challenge with a councillor who is not accountable or who is not responsive, it is clear that there must be actions that must be taken.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this conversation. Ronald Lamula, current Minister of Justice and Correctional Services and a member of the NEC. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, November 1st. Don't forget to go vote for the ANC and for joining us here on ANC News with me, Penny Libiani. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Don't forget to cast your vote on the 1st of November for the ANC. And again, you can join us next week for another edition of ANC News with me, Penny Libyani. This was our first for today, so let's hope that you'll keep engaging with us on social media platforms. You can follow all ANC social media pages, My ANC on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and keep those comments coming and suggestions for questions and conversations that you'd like to see us bring through for you right here on the show. Okay?
We're done.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether you're still live.
I'm also not sure.